Welcome to Pieguy Pick'em. It is week 6, the NFL season, as the season is flying already. Third of the way there after this week. Back-to-back weeks where the best bet has lost, but we've been very profitable. I've been very profitable. We're almost back to plus units on the season. If the Chiefs had held that lead, it would have been in the black on the season, but they did not. But I did play a little Giants last night, so that helped for me. Giants +7, easy rocking chair winner last night. I didn't have time to give it out. I did give it out on the CFL show I do with CFL Stats Geek, Rants from Rangers. I did give out the Giants +7.5, so I will count it towards the record. Around the league, I don't think there was anything too, nobody's undefeated. There's only one winless team, and we're going to talk about them right now. It is London, England, and we're sending the Jets again for some reason. I guess the NFL really doesn't like the British. The Jets are 7 points, neutral site underdogs. The total is 43.5. The Broncos upset the Eagles 21-17. I applaud Sean Payton for going for 2 when it was 16-17 to take the lead instead of, going for 1 and then maybe the Eagles have a chance to tie it late with a field goal when they do eventually go up 21-17 later in that game. They held the Eagles to 2 of 11 on third down. Obviously, the Eagles didn't look very good last night, losing outright to the Giants, a 7-point chalk. They sacked Hurts 6 times, the Denver Broncos. But penalties again, 11 penalties for 121 yards. That's 3 games in a row with double-digit penalties for the Denver Broncos. But they did go straight to London from Philadelphia, so that is good. We see that as a positive with the travel advantage there. We like when teams go to London early. I talked about a few weeks ago, and the Steelers weren't allowed to go early, and I thought that was hogwash. Left guard Ben Powers is out, and offensive linebacker Jonah Ellis is questionable for this game in London. The Jets lost again. They were dominated by the Cowboys, who are on a short. The Jets were on a short week after losing to the Dolphins. The box score lies in that game. The Jets were awful for the first half. They scored a bunch of fourth quarter garbage time points. Dallas had 7.1 yards per play. Dak had 4 touchdown passes. Justin Fields was sacked 5 times. The Dallas pass rush all of a sudden looks pretty good. It hasn't looked good since Micah Parsons left. They also had double-digit penalties, 10 penalties for 61 yards. The coaching staff there's a mess. They're surrendering 31.4 points per game this season. Historically bad by the New York Jets. The New York Jets being historically bad, that's not exactly news. 144 rush yards per game is third best in the NFL. However, and Jason in the chat here likes Breece Hall to do some damage, and based on their rushing number, maybe he will. But yet, the Jets are behind constantly. So, yeah, teams are letting them run the football because they're up, 20, 25 points on them. And the rumor now is that anybody is on the trade block for the Jets. And Johnny, the prop man, potentially in the chat here saying that he's considering betting Justin Fields to throw an interception, which I don't hate. The Jets also traveled early, so I don't think the travel matters too much. They traveled on Monday. Denver traveled straight from Philadelphia. But, the Broncos showed the ability to stomp bad teams last year. Like, they beat the crap out of some bad teams last year. And they've been good on these field trip games where they've stayed over. They haven't gone back to Denver. And we know the box score is fraudulent against Dallas, and the coaching of the Jets and the management of the Jets has been atrocious. Yeah, I like the Broncos here. Broncos, but I'm going to split it up. Broncos first half -4, 4.5. I looked at there was 4.5 yesterday, but the line moved a little bit towards some Jets money for some reason. I guess just to take it the 7.5. So maybe I can see if I can find a 4. But I like Denver first half -4.5 and Denver full game -7. Denver's been able to beat up on these bad teams since last year. They've shown that ability. The Jets are a bad team, 0-5. And even if they score some late garbage time to backdoor, we should be able to catch the first half and split at worst, I think here. So I like the horses in this one. Denver Broncos to beat the tar of the New York Jets like everybody else has. All right, New Orleans Saints hosting the New England Patriots. Patriots 3.5-point road favorites. The total for between around 46. There's a bit of variance on a lot of these games. Which is good for bettors. You want to lay extra chalk, you can find a cheaper number. Sometimes you get a cheaper number for free. So shop around for these numbers. You don't want to be left on the wrong side of a hook. The Pats upset the Bills. Big win, 23-20. The defense looks very, very good. They held James Cook to 3.3 yards per play. Christian Gonzalez is back, but will he be back again? Let me take a look at the injury report. Update for this one. I had him as questionable early. The Patriots actually have a few players questionable for this one, so very important to keep an eye on the Patriots injury report because the Saints injury report is good news. It looks like Chase Brown might be back. Chase Brown. Chase Young might be back. Chase Young might be back, and he matters a ton. It looks like the offensive line is going to be completely healthy. Yeah. Alvin Kamara and is the only questionable. Isaac Adams still out the cornerback, but he hasn't played in weeks. Looks like Gonzalez is questionable, so that's the big one because the Patriots defense looked very, very good with Gonzalez in there. Allen threw a pick. Bills fumbled multiple times. And it wasn't a fraudulent win. They turned the football over, but it was 6 yards per play apiece, even on yards per play. So I don't think it was a fraudulent win at all. The Patriots beat them. They couldn't stop Stephon Diggs, 146 receiving yards, but nobody else really did much. So, if you can take away Diggs here, but the Saints don't really have a corner that can just, blanket Diggs. But yeah, the big one, of course, Christian Gonzalez, keep an eye on him. The Saints forced 4 turnovers against the Giants and beat what looks to be a decent Giants team with Jackson Dart after last night. But they weren't looking good before. It was the Giants making mistakes. They did outgain the Giants 5.4 to 4.8 yards per play, but the Giants beat themselves, and the Giants will do that from time to time. You have a rookie quarterback. You have an organization that's been wishy-washy for a little bit. But yeah, this could be the full strength Saints team for the first time this season, where you have Taysom Hill, you have Chase Young, you have the full offensive line. So, and I don't want the Patriots off that big win, but I don't really want to. The Patriots are a better team here. The Patriots could be really good. The Saints at best are average. So, I'm passing. The Sharps are on the Saints. I understand why the Sharps are on the Saints. 3.5 at home. A team that's getting healthy versus a team that had a big win on Sunday Night Football. But pass for me. I'm not interested in getting involved with one of these bottom feeders coming off a win. Because remember, the Saints coming off a win against the Giants. So not the spot for me. So pass. Cowboys, Panthers. Cowboys 3-point road favorites. The total here, 49.5. So the Cowboys, we talked about 7.1 yards per play against the Carolina Panthers. They took their foot off the gas late. The Jets scored a bunch of garbage time points. The injuries on the O-line did not hinder their offense, while the defensive line looked pretty good. The Cowboys won in the trenches on both sides of the football. You're going to win football games when you do that. Linebacker Jack Sanborn has a concussion. We'll take a look at that. That's a big deal because if you remember in that Green Bay game, it felt like Jack Sanborn made almost every tackle in that game. Tyler Smith, the offensive line, may return. He was limited in practice. There's a lot of questionables in this injury report. CeeDee Lamb is out. Jack Sanborn is out. Devontae Turpin is out. And Miles Sanders is out. Tyler Smith could go. Looks like Tyler Guyton is going to play. Wow, he's back from concussion protocol. And Tyler Booker, the other offensive lineman in question, is out. And a lot of questionables in this Cowboys injury report. Flournoy, Eric, what was his name? Flournoy, the receiver, 114 receiving yards, his breakout. Jake Ferguson and George Pickens had about 50 each, but nobody else did too much. But, it's three guys. You could work with three guys there. And the play calling in Dallas. Let's talk about the play. We talked about Mike McCarthy, a good play calling, right? So they hired from within. So, it's probably a modified Mike McCarthy playbook, but they're just calling, like the play calling's been excellent in Dallas. Brian Schottenheimer, you take a flyer on Coach of the Year. I mean, the Cowboys, I was thinking about this week, do I want to bet the Cowboys to win the NFC East? But, the Philly lost last night. So, maybe the value's gone, but, Washington's still pretty good. So I'm concerned about Washington, but right now the Cowboys, in my opinion, are better than the Philadelphia Eagles. And we saw Philadelphia Eagles look like the worst team in the NFC East last night. I mean, the Giants were clearly the better football team in that game. Carolina, they were down. I had the Dolphins, and I don't know if it was the wrong side. I mean, the Dolphins were up 17-0 early in that game. Early in that contest, it was 17-0. And Carolina battled back. And then the Dolphins took the lead again. They punched back, and Carolina eventually won 27-24. They outgained Miami 6.4 to 4.7 yards per play. But remember, they were behind for a lot of that game. But they did shut down the Finns' run game. This Carolina run defense has been so hogwash for the last few seasons. Held Devon Achane to 1.6 yards per carry. And their run game got going. Rico Dowdle, 206 yards. Now we have the Rico Dowdle revenge game, and he's looking to take it to the Cowboys. He's saying, his quote this week was, "Buckle up." He thinks Rico Dowdle thinks he's going to take it to the Cowboys. I don't know about that. But the injuries, of course, for Carolina are Chuba Hubbard. I don't think he's going to play again. I'm just going to check what the updates were this afternoon here. I did these notes yesterday. Chuba Hubbard and Tyler Moton, the tackle, are the concerns. Jalen Coker looks like he's going to make his Panthers season debut. Chuba Hubbard's out, Moton's out, Wharton's out, and depth cornerback Caleb Evans out. Coker's questionable. Sanders, the tight end, is questionable, and two more cornerbacks. I mean, the Panthers cornerbacks aren't that good, but I mean, the guys behind them, got to be worse. And 10 different players did catch passes last week, and we mentioned 206 yards from Dowdle, but they were playing the Miami Dolphins. The Miami Dolphins defense, like Storm Duck, their number one cornerback, Storm Duck, he's out. You know what I mean? And Storm Duck isn't the number one corner, so I like the Cowboys here. I think this is cheap. I mean, I get it. The injuries to the offensive line, CeeDee Lamb is out, Turpin's out, but this team just, they're playing well, and they're still having those good plays that they had last season, and the offense is really starting to work. So I'm going to take, how about them Cowboys? Dallas Cowboys -3. Dak Prescott's playing like a top 3 quarterback. He's way better than Bryce Young, right? So that's enough for me. 3 is too cheap. Give me the Cowboys -3. We move along to the aforementioned Miami Dolphins. Dolphins 3.5, 4-point home dogs to the Los Angeles Chargers, who have lost 2 in a row after a 3-0 division sweep to start the season. The Chargers' injuries have caught up to them. They lost 27-10 to the Commanders. They were outgained 7.1 to 5.2 yards per play. They were 9 of 16 on third down, though. So it's not that, Justin Herbert's doing what he can. The passing game's been okay, but Herbert was sacked 5 times. The offensive line injuries, 10 penalties for 85 yards. Those are, and 2 turnovers. Offensive line injuries will lead to, sacks, turnovers, penalties. And now Bozeman, the center, is being called out by his coach. I don't know about this. You have offensive line injuries. Now you're going to call out, one of the healthy, I'm not a fan of this. I mean, you're already short there. You're going to make, the Bradley. I mean, maybe it'll work. Maybe Bozeman will, get fired up and play better. But, he's working with, backups at this point. I think it's a little bit harsh. Quentin Johnson was limited in practice with a hamstring injury. And, he's been pretty good this season for the Chargers. And then you got the defensive end, Deshaun Hand, didn't practice Wednesday or Thursday with a groin injury. And, of course, they've lost both running backs. Najee Harris and Marion Hampton are out for the season. So they're down to, Hassan Haskins and Kimon Vidal. And, we say the difference between Hampton and Najee Harris is almost nothing. But once you get down to these third and fourth string guys, the running backs start to matter a little bit. Joe Alt remains out. Deshaun Hand is out. Trey Pipkins is still out. So, you're still – and, Johnston is questionable. Perryman questionable. So, another offensive lineman, Jamari Slater, or Sailor, I guess his backup is questionable. Yeah, the Chargers are banged up here. But, I mean, the Dolphins blew a 17-0 lead to the Carolina Panthers. Not exactly a team I want to back. They have their own injury concerns. And another defensive back, Elijah Campbell, he's out. Linebacker Terrell Dodson is out. The center, Aaron Brewer, and Storm Duck are questionable. So Storm Duck may make his long-awaited return to the Miami backfield. I don't know about that. But, Darren Waller was great again. We cashed the touchdown prop with him, covered my loss on the money line, which was unfortunate. I mean, if you bet the money line a place with early cash, did we lay chalk? If you had bet Dolphins money line at a place with early cash, you would have won your bet. So, I mean, I guess some people did win. Waddle at 110 yards and a touchdown, but after that it wasn't much because they couldn't get the run game going. It was Waddle and Waller, but I'm not laying 3.5 with the banged up Chargers team. His Dolphins are past, but I lean Miami. The Chargers have come down to Miami time and time again, and they've struggled in Hard Rock Stadium. So it's not. Maybe I get involved, but right now it's a pass. I don't really want to go back to the well with the fish again. A tough team to back. This all of a sudden looks like a great game. Seattle Seahawks, Jacksonville Jaguars. Seahawks, Pick'em. No favorite here. The total 47.5. 38-35 between the Seahawks and the Bucks. One interception by Sam Darnold, the crucial turning point in that game with Tampa, enabling Tampa to get the ball and kick the game-winning field goal to win that one. 8.6 yards per play for Sam Darnold and company. 27 first downs. 6 of 9 on third down. 4 touchdown passes for Sam Darnold. Walker, 8.6 yards per carry. JSN, 137 receiving yards, 2 touchdowns. A.J. Barner had 2 touchdowns. And they lost that game. They played as good as they could on offense, and they lost. Why? Injuries in the defensive backfield. Witherspoon was out. Julian Love, the safety, was out. And those are names to watch this week for Seattle, because the Seattle defense, when healthy, is very, very good. But, linebacker DeMarcus Lawrence, he might play. Let's take a look here. I'm going to pull up the updated injury report. Because this is the key, in my opinion, with this Seahawks game. So we got Josh Jones is out, Derek Hall is out, Julian Love's doubtful, Witherspoon's out, Reek Woolen's doubtful. So that backfield for the Seattle Seahawks, could get gashed again, but the offense is playing great. And then you go to the other side, the turning point. The Jaguars beat the Chiefs. They were outgained 5.9 to 7.6 yards per play. The Chiefs having the 7.6. But they capitalized on Chiefs' mistakes. The pick six. Devin Lloyd, 99-yard pick six. That's like a 14-point swing. And then, the Chiefs had 109 yards of penalties. Jacksonville's defense was, pretty good. And Trevor Lawrence, for the first time in a long, long time, looked pretty damn good out there for the Jaguars. And he was connected with Hunter, Brian Thomas Jr., and De'Ami Brown. All made plays in that game. The Jaguars team is running hot, but the center, Robert Hainsey's doubtful for this game. But other than that, that's a big, It's a big player. Don't, Robert Haynes is a great center, and your center matters a lot. He touches the ball every snap. But other than that, they're fairly healthy. They traded Campbell to the Browns for Greg Newsome. So the defense isn't, and the defense, the quotes this week was that, we got the pick six, but we could improve. It's not fat and happy Jaguars here. So, I think these are two teams. The Jaguars really impressed me last week, and the Seahawks are banged up, but I think the Seahawks are still a little bit better than the Jaguars. But the Seahawks offense is red hot, and they're injured on defense, and the Jaguars offense is starting to look really good. So I kind of like the over here, over 47.5. I mean, Jackson Duval there. I forget what the name of the stadium is. Not exactly the loudest stadium in the world, so the offense should be able to hear on both sides. So I like the over here, 47.5. I think it's a little bit cheap. Both these teams got the Jackson got the I think Jackson got the 30s too last week. So both these teams got in the 30s last week against. I know Tampa's defense is a little bit banged up. But the Chiefs defense is pretty good, and the Seattle offense is completely healthy. It's the defense that's banged up. So Trevor Lawrence and company should be able to move the football. So over 47.5 here for Pieguy on this bet. All right, Browns, Steelers, AFC North matchup. Steelers now 6-point home favorites, the total 38.5. Of course, the big news, Joe Flacco has been traded. Dylan Gabriel era has begun in Cleveland. How long will it last? Some say 3 weeks, some say 3 years, some say 30 years. I don't know about 30 years, but who knows with these Cleveland Browns quarterbacks. He's what, like the 100th quarterback since 1999. But he was pretty good in London. Pretty good game against the Vikings. He had the Browns had 4.8 yards per play. Quentin Judkins still is looking pretty good. But the offense, it's not great. 3 for three. I think 3 for either 13 or 15 on the third down. Apologize, can't read my writing. 10 penalties for 78 yards. Cleveland doing Cleveland things. So the offense is strong, but the defense is very good. Gabriel had 2 touchdowns, no picks. With an elite defense, Judkins has 110 yards on the ground. But no bye after the London game, so that's of note. And of course the big news, Deshaun Watson is starting to get healthy. Maybe the Browns are thinking about starting him. They're not, but that was in the news this week for some reason. You want to talk about non-news, but the Browns overall are pretty healthy outside of Cedric Tillman, who's on IR. So pretty healthy group here. Just defensive tackle Mike Hall Jr. is out. The rest of the team is available and ready to go. Outside of Tillman, who's on IR. The Steelers injuries, they're off a win against the Vikings in London, and where they outgained the Vikings 5.9 to 5.2 yards per play. They allowed 350 passing yards to Carson Wentz. So maybe Dylan Gabriel can get the passing yards going. He did look pretty good last week, as we talked about. They gave 114 yards to Jordan Addison and 126 receiving yards to Justin Jefferson. This pass defense has been getting cooked, but you're playing Cleveland here, so does that really matter? And quarterback Jalen Ramsey is questionable for this game. And wide receiver Calvin Austin III is out. I'm tempted to take the Browns here. This is 6 points in an AFC North divisional game. We know how nasty and stupid these games get. I think I'm going to, the Browns being off the London game, Tomlin against a rookie quarterback, the Browns don't have the wide receiver weapons that the Vikings do, not by a mile. So I think it's going to be a pass. But I am looking at the Cleveland side here, but another pass here officially. All right, moving along. Rams, Ravens. Los Angeles is 7.5 point road chalk. The total here is 44.5. I believe Lamar Jackson is out. All week I've been seeing he's going to be out. The Rams, took a tough loss, 7.1 yards per play to San Francisco's 4.9. But, older quarterback in a short week. And Mac Jones and Kendrick Bourne looked like, Tom Brady and Randy Moss on Thursday. They couldn't be stopped. Yeah, Lamar Jackson's out. Ernest Jones Jr. Emory Jones Jr. is out. The fullback Patrick Ricard remains out. Roquan Smith is out. Devontae Walker is out. Chiboda Awuzie is out. Zay Flowers is questionable. The Ravens are banged up in the worst ways. But the Rams, they have injuries too. Rob Havenstein, the offensive tackle, he's doubtful. Omar Spates, linebacker, is doubtful. And Tutu Atwell and Colby Parkinson, wide receiver tight end, are questionable in this one. But, it's the Ravens are going to get Kyle Hamilton, Ronnie Stanley, Kyle Van Noy back. Maybe Zay Flowers. Can they? And it is a home game. But, they allowed 44 points to 6.3 yards to play the Houston Texans, who couldn't do anything until, the fourth quarter against the Tennessee Titans all season. So, easy pass. Who knows what's going to happen in this game? Baltimore could get slapped. Baltimore could, rise up and with the crowd. But I got my money fading Baltimore earlier in the season. The numbers have got away from me. Time to pass. All right, Cardinals, Colts. Colts 7.5-point favorites. The total is 47.5. I don't know what's the stat. Like a lot of these games, it's like, is Kyler Murray? They have questions everywhere. Is Kyler Murray going to play? He's questionable for Sunday. That's great. So we don't know. I don't think he's going to play. They continue to find ways to lose, these Arizona Cardinals. This is a third straight week they've lost on a walk-off field goal. And this was the most ridiculous game. If you had Arizona, I had the Titans on the money line, and they both cashed, and I didn't deserve them, but I'm not going to give the money back. They won. They covered. Jonathan Gannon, both physically and verbally lambasted DeMercado after dropping the touchdown, and he got fined $100,000. Probably should have been fired. You can't put your hands on a player like that. He apologized, but the Cardinals, multiple fumbles, and then not only the multiple. Okay, you make multiple. Fumbles happen. The fumbling out of the end zones, a brain. I don't know. Like it happened last week, and at least with Adonai Mitchell of the Colts, who ironically they're playing 2 weeks ago, it looked like he was trying to extend the ball over the goal line. DeMercado just dropped it like a complete moron. Brain fart. I don't know what he was thinking. Marvin Harrison Jr. looking forward to playing the team his dad played for, of course, with Peyton Manning all those years. 9 different Cardinals, limited at practice. They're starting to get banged up now, and the Colts are just stomping bad teams. Like they get a lead, and then they have a good offensive line, a good run game, and a pretty good quarterback. Daniel Jones is playing of his mind. They outgained Vegas 5.6 to 4.6 yards per play, but they were 8 for 10 of third down. They allowed 0 sacks. Vegas had a sack in every game, the longest NFL streak for I forget how long, but it was the current NFL streak for consecutive games with a sack. That got snapped by this Colts offensive line. They sacked Geno Smith 4 times. They picked him off twice. Maybe that's not saying much because Geno Smith's been horrid. But they run up the score. Now their kicker, Spencer Schrader, he got hurt. He's out. They signed Michael Badgley. The Money Badger is back in the NFL. Oh boy. I'll take a sip of water for him. Cornerback Kenny Moore, and I don't think he's going to come back and make his return in this game. And Grover Stewart might be. I'm just going to get an update on him. But I like the Colts here. The Colts have been stomping bad teams consistently this season. It's not like you're laying 14 here. And I don't think Kyler Murray's going to play. The Cardinals are a mess. 3 straight games, you lose on a walk-off field goal. That's mentally draining. You have a bunch of guys banged up. Your coach is assaulting your players. At least verbally. I think it was physically too. It looks like Grover Stewart's going to play. It looks like it was just a rest day. Okay, so and Grover Stewart's going to play. So yeah, and the defensive lineman Darius Robinson also up for the Cardinals. So I like the Colts here. I think the Colts smashed the Cardinals. I faded the Cardinals last week as big chalk. I'm fading them again. Getting 7.5. Maybe they wake up this week. Is this too many points? I don't know. The way Indianapolis is playing, no. If the Cardinals, there could be quit here. All right. Now we got a bum fight on our hands. Tennessee Titans, Las Vegas Raiders. Raiders, 3.5, 4 point home favorites, the total 41.5. Tennessee finally off the schneid. Not only do they cover, they win outright on a Calvin Ridley. Oh, one more thing about the Cardinals. So you fumbled, you made those mistakes, but you also, on the last drive, allowed Calvin Ridley the only half decent, somewhat elite weapon on the Tennessee Titans to get a big play. So, that's the fate of the Cardinals right now. So that's why I like the Colts in that one. But yeah, they were better. Okay, Ridley at 100. I was ripping on Callahan. How do you not get Calvin Ridley the ball? He's your best weapon by a mile. 131 yards. They got on the ball last week. 5 yards per play. Finally, an average game from the offense. But the quotes after the game, I mean, you want to talk about fat and happy after beating the Arizona Cardinals. Everybody is happy. L'Jarius Sneed, corner. Everybody's happy. Felt like we'd won the Super Bowl or something. Cam Ward, it was a big time win. The biggest thing is we have to build off of it. Yeah, I don't know about that. Callahan keeps his job for another week. Offensive lineman Blake Hance, cornerback Marcus Harris, linebacker Arden Key, and kicker Joey Sly all didn't practice Wednesday or Thursday. I don't think they're going to play. I'll double check right now, see what the update is on that. As we talk about the Las Vegas Raiders, who were embarrassed 40 to 3 or 40 to 6. They gave up 40 points to the Indianapolis Colts last week. Chip Kelly already, defending his sus play calling. His offense doesn't look good. Philadelphia probably could have told you that from a few years ago. Chip Kelly probably doesn't belong in the NFL. Geno Smith looks horrible. He looks worse every week. Brock Bowers is out again. The punter AJ Cole might play. Kicker Joey Sly is out for all those players I listed were all out for the Titans. They had their NFL leading sack streak snapped. I talked about that by the Colts. It's trouble. They're what does that say? Oh, Michael Mayer may return. I think Michael Mayer is back. So even though the Bowers up and Mayer's back, they're angry. Both sides of the ball. The quotes this week: the Las Vegas Raiders are angry. And they're talking more practice and improvement. Well, if you're an angry team and you're, looking for someone to take out that anger on, someone to, somewhere to put your anger, somewhere to, rip some, get a nice big win, feel good about yourself again. May I introduce you to the Tennessee Titans, ladies and gentlemen, because they will, you want to get out there and really show how angry you are and your effort and get that win. Well, the Tennessee Titans are the perfect team for you to play. Yeah, give me the Raiders. Raiders are the better team. Yeah, they're bad. Geno looks awful. But, they played the Colts. They played, Colts are pretty good. Who did they play before that? They played the Chargers, another pretty good team. The Bears, they probably should have won that game. And then the Bears came down, they raided it away. The Commanders, they played 3 good teams, and the Chicago Bears were a question mark, still in my opinion. Now you get to play the Tennessee Titans. You get to beat up on somebody, take out your anger on them. Give me the Raiders minus 3.5 here. Easy bet for me, in my opinion. The autumn wind will return as a Raider. for 1 week. Well, while you're playing the Titans, anyways. All right, Cincinnati Bengals and the Green Bay Cowards. They're back in action. 14.5, and they're 14.5-point road favorites after that 40-40 tie that they look so great against the Dallas Cowboys. They outgained the Cowboys 6.5 to 6.2 yards per play. That's a pretty even game. 4 linemen are questionable. I'm going to take a look at that updated injury report for the Green Bay Packers. That matters a lot, especially we saw how we saw how they were impacted by those lineman injuries against the Dallas Cowboys. And, of course, the Cleveland Browns, who beat them the week before. And now, look who's coming to town. Joe Flacco's back to take another pound of flesh from the Packers, maybe? I don't know. They scored 21 points in the fourth quarter, the Bengals, with Jake Browning. But he threw 3 picks, and the game was over before the fourth quarter. So he's been benched. They traded for Joe Flacco. Joe Flacco will start. And notable, former Packers quarterback Sean Clifford. Sean Clifford is on the Bengals practice squad. So, he could give them some inside information on, what the Bengals like to do. So Christian Watson remains out. Devontae Wyatt is out. The defensive line, that's a big notable injury. Nate Hobbs is questionable. Cornerback Nate Hobbs. Brandon McManus, the kicker, is questionable. Rasheed Walker, the tackle, and Zach Tom and Aaron Banks, 3 offensive linemen, are questionable. So the Packers are banged up a little bit here. And they're laying 14.5 against a quarterback who beat them 3 weeks ago. I want to fade the Green Bay Cowards. I mean, that was after what they pulled on Sunday Night Football 2 weeks ago. But, can the Bengals, hang? I think they can. I think that the Green Bay Cowards will show their yellow bellies and sit on, they're not going to be aggressive. They don't need to win by 14.5. They don't need to make a statement. Why do they need to make a statement? They're just going to win by, 6 or 7, and the Bengals are going to cover here because they don't try to win. They try not to lose. The Green Bay Cowards. Bengals plus 14.5. Small play. It's not. You're betting on Joe Flacco and the Cincinnati Bengals, but it's the NFL, and who knows? Maybe the Bengals. Like I know if you're still alive in Survivor, Green Bay sunk my ship, and I don't know. I wouldn't take him here. I don't care. They're 14. I'd play the Colts. I'd play Vegas. I'd play the Rams. I don't want anything to do with the Green Bay Cowards because as far as I'm concerned, their motto, they don't care about wins and losses. Well, they don't care about wins. They care about loss. As long as they don't lose, they're okay. So who knows? Maybe the Bengals time. All right, we move to a much, much better game. Maybe. We'll see. Maybe the Bengals game run. Niners, Bucks. A Bucks 3-point favorite, still 47.5 here. I wanted to bet the Bucks here. I think the Bucks are the better team. I think the Niners' victory over the Rams was, was a divisional game, was a little bit of flukiness. Kendrick Bourne and Mac Jones. I don't think Purdy's back this week, so Bourne and Jones, do it again. Show me it again. That's what I kind of want to do here. But the Bucks injury report's bad. I mean, Mike Evans is going to remain out. Chris Godwin's out. Bucky Irving's out. Zion McCollum's out. And other cornerback Benjamin Morrison is out. Another running back's out too. Josh Williams is in concussion protocol, so he's out. Purdy's out. Pearsall is out. Juwan Jennings may play. And that's big because, we saw what Bourne did against the Rams last week. Tampa's banged up in the backfield. Seattle, Sam Darnold, we talked about 4 touchdowns, put up 35 points. But he did, the defense came up with the big interception when they needed it. But if Juwan Jennings plays, advantage Niners here. But Jones has looked good. He's a little banged up, and they're getting guys back. So I wanted to take Tampa here, but the injury report has me off. So it's a pass. All right, before we get to Sunday Night Football, it is time for for Johnny's Prop Report. And we have, what do we have here? 5 props? 5 props this week. He's been, iffy the last couple of weeks, but he started hot. So the first prop here, Jaylen Warren of the Pittsburgh Steelers, over 42.5 rushing yards. Jake Ferguson, over 6.5 receptions. Josh Jacobs, over 79.5 receiving yards. Stephon Diggs, over 56.5 receiving yards. And George Pickens, anytime touchdown, plus 110. What's the score in Game 5? I'll put that at the bottom there. I actually like all of these props. I like all of them quite a bit. Johnny's Prop Report been winning since day one on Pieguy Pick'em, so I bet him blindly. Almost blind. 90% blind bets. All right, Sunday Night Football should be a beauty. Detroit Lions, Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs, 2.5-point favorites after losing to the Jaguars. Monday Night Football, and on a short week. The total is, 2-1 Tigers. Interesting. The total is 52.5 here. Worthy's going to play. And that's kind of the big news here because the Lions are banged up in the backfield. They have 6 players questionable, 4 players out, and about 8 of them really, really matter. Like Lee McNeil, Terry Arnold are out. Safety Kirby Joseph, offensive tackle Taylor Dicker, safety Brian Branch, cornerback Avonte Maddox, and kick returner wide receiver Khalif Raymond, all questionable. Lions are banged up. That's why the Chiefs' money has come, and the Chiefs are healthy. And we talked about 7.6 to 5.9 yards per play against the Jaguars, but of course the costly 99-yard pick six that turned the whole game on its head. But if you think I'm laying chalk against the Detroit Lions, you're out of your mind. I know they're banged up, and that's going to keep me off the Detroit Lions. But I don't like what I'm seeing from the Chiefs. They're taking penalties. Chris Jones was caught napping on the game-winning touchdown by Trevor Lawrence, and they're losing games. It's the kicker. Harrison Butker has been the things the Chiefs are known for doing well, outside of course Patrick Mahomes and the quarterback position. I think the Kansas City Chiefs, I was worried about the start of the season, and there's no bad spot for the Lions. I know Lions, they beat up on a couple of bad defenses or bad teams in the Browns, with the Bengals, Browns, Ravens. They beat up a little bit on the AFC North, which looks like it's a little bit of a rough division this year. And with the decline of the Ravens, Lions don't look as impressive. One thing interesting in the news this week is that the Lions are going to plan a block party in Windsor, Ontario, Canada, for American Thanksgiving to show cross-border unity. So good for the Detroit Lions. I'm trying to get the AmCam relationship, mended a little bit after the tariffs and whatnot have been going on, the trade war. So, with the injury news, I can't bet Detroit. It's a pass. I don't want the Chiefs. I don't want the Chiefs at all. I was going to hammer. If Worthy was out, I was going to bet the Lions money line, but Worthy's in, and the Lions are banged up in the secondary. So the Chiefs should be able to move the ball here. And maybe it's an over. But also, Detroit's team total over. What's Detroit's team total going to be? 25.5. I mean, Detroit scores points, but I think we're gonna play the over 52.5. Worthy in. Lions banged up on defense. Lions offense is still hot and nasty. Over 52.5. Another over here on Pieguy Pick'em. All right, 2 Monday night games remaining, and then we'll wrap up with best bets. Bills Falcons. The Bills 4.5, 5.5 point road favorites. The total is 50. The Bills, we talked about it, the loss to the Pats wasn't fraudulent. They deserved to lose that game. You turned the ball over 3 times, 90 yards, 90 yards and penalties across 11 different penalties, 3 turnovers, and the yards per play were even. Josh Allen was your leading rusher. We don't want that if you're a Bills fan. But Ed Oliver could return. Of course, this game isn't until Monday, so I don't think there's going to be a too big of an update on. Like, it won't be confirmed. But I will take a look at the updated injury report for the Bills. Coleman, they're taught. His fumble. He was pretty scrutinized by both his team and the media about the fumble. So that's a bit of a concern. Keon Coleman there. The Falcons are expected to get A.J. Terrell back, so that's good news for them. Darnell Mooney looks like he will remain. He hasn't practiced Thursday or Friday. Curtis Samuel didn't practice on Friday for the Bills. Yeah, Ed Oliver's been limited, but now Matt Milano hasn't practiced with a pectoral, and neither DeMar Hamlin, the same injury, didn't practice on Friday. So the Falcons' run game could work here against the Bills. But they're coming off the win against the Commanders, and that was a good spot for them, and they did pretty well. They outgained them by 1 yard per play. There was a late Washington surge that made that game look closer than it was. The Falcons were dominant for the majority of that game, but the concern with the Falcons is, though I think Drake London and the run game should be able to work against the Bills here, their special teams numbers are one of the worst in the leagues. They're awful on special teams. We've seen how much special teams has affected this season. Also, the last time they came off a bye week with Raheem Morris, who's not a very good head coach in my opinion, they lost 17-13 to the Falcons. Then their bye week kind of neutralized by the fact that this is a Monday game. The Bills are going to get 8 days of rest. The Bills are off a loss. I could see them really, wanting this one, really running up and they can run up the score on Atlanta. Like, the Bills are the better team here. The Falcons, the injury news is bad. So I'm probably going to, with the new injury news, I'm probably going to lower the stake, but the Bills are going into the bye. The Falcons are coming off the bye. Teams going into the bye last week were 2-0 against the spread. The week before it was 3-1. The lone loser being the Green Bay Cowards, who didn't lose the game, but they didn't cover or win either. So I like the Bills here -4.5. They're the better team. They're going into the bye, coming off a loss. They want to go into the bye with a win. It's a little bit steep, so probably a half unit play or maybe half or 2/3 of unit play for me. So. Bills -4.5. I like that one. All right. Last game of the docket. The Hail Mary revenge game. Bears, Commanders. Commanders 4.5-point home favorites. The total 49.5-50. Everyone remembers the play last year. Jaden Daniels to Noah Brown. And Tyreek Stevenson, chirping with the fans or whatever he was doing, flagellating with the fans, essentially. And Noah Brown makes the catch, and Washington wins the game, and the Bears season goes to the toilet, and Washington goes on to the NFC Championship game, where they eventually do lose to the Philadelphia Eagles, but it was a very good playoff run for the Washington Commanders, and it all started with that Hail Mary against the Chicago Bears. That was kind of like and the Chicago Bears season was over once that happened. So the Bears remember this. Okay, the Bears remember that game. They were, pretty good. I think the week before they had smoked the Panthers. They were looking pretty good. They were looking, maybe they could squeak into the playoffs, and then, Tyreek Stevenson decided to go, talk to the fans or whatever he was doing, and then Washington got a Hail Mary, and that was the end of the Bears season. The Bears were outgained by the Raiders, 6.9 to 4.2 yards per play. They had 8 penalties for 60 yards. However, the week before, they did beat the Dallas Cowboys, and the Dallas Cowboys look pretty good right now. So, it's a little bit of, what are we going to get here? No injury updates on this game. Interesting. I don't think McLaurin's going to play for the Commanders. The Bears are getting a little bit healthier. Commanders might get Noah Brown back. The way I'm reading is that McLaurin's not going to play. Third down, 2 for 7, and the Chargers are over 50%. So even though, 7.1 yards per play to 5.2, third down has been a problem for the Commanders on both sides of the ball. The Chargers were up 10-0 after the first quarter, but the Commanders scored 27 unanswered. And remember, the Chargers got pretty injured in that game, so that could have had something to do with the collapse. And it's just the Chargers. They like to collapse. They're choke artists. Excuse me, I'm going to have some water. So I think Chicago's got this game circled. They're coming off the bye. They've had 2 weeks to prepare. They want to reverse last year. They want to be the upstart team that goes to the playoffs, has a nice little run. And this is kind of the poetic way to do it. It's the meaningful game, the game that turned your season around last year for the bad. You got to go in here. You got to turn around for the good. McLaurin's out. So that should help Chicago's defense, who, could struggle a little bit here. Noah Brown and John Bates, limited participants. We'll see what happens. Maybe we see Tyreek Stevenson, make the play this year. I could see that. I like the Bears, and like I said, the numbers don't really back this one up. This is more of a an intangible bet. You gotta think that this means a lot to the guys in the Bears. Like, they cannot lose to the Commanders again. This game is circled. I feel like this is like their, mini sort of, this feels like the turning point in the Bears season. Off the bye, you're rested, time to prepare, and you got to get that revenge. Bears injuries quickly: Jaquan Brisker, Grady Jarrett, Kyle Monongai, and Darnell Wright, the defensive back, the defensive lineman, the running back, and the offensive lineman, respectively, all didn't practice Thursday. Offensive lineman Jonah Jackson was limited. So hopefully he'll be able to play, because I'm taking the Bears here plus 4.5. Sorry, guys. I don't know what came over me the last 3 minutes or so. But anyway, there's the social media at Pieguy9871 on YouTube and Instagram. If you want to follow me, follow the show. The best bet for this week. Let's do it. I really like it. I think it's a good spot for the Raiders. They got embarrassed last week. Now they're playing the worst team in the NFL, who's off a fluky, ridiculous win, and they're celebrating like they won the Super Bowl. Yeah, the autumn wind is a Raider once again. Raiders minus 3.5. Bowers is up, but Mayor's back. Geno Smith, please don't throw 3 interceptions. Pie Guy's best bet. Raiders minus 3.5. The autumn wind is a Raider. All right, thank you everybody for watching. I'm going to go have some more water, and we'll see you all next week. I'm hoping regular time for another edition of Pie Guys Pick'em. Goodbye.